Yeah.
When I began breeding Arabian horses 16 years ago, I, of course, was captivated by the beauty and the mystique and all of those things that we talk about with the Arabian horse. But I think also it's not just about the horse. It's about the people that have come into my life that, for me, have made a difference in breeding and being involved with Arabian horses. Today, I'm joined by my friend Jeff Wallace, George Z from Hennessy Arabian, and Christine Bruce from HB Arabians. And for the three of you, how your love affair, I'm not quite sure when you all got involved in Arabian horses, but I'd like for you to share with us when you got involved in Arabian horses, how you selected the Arabian horse or how the Arabian horse selected you, and here we are today.
When I was growing up, I had a half Arab, I think, quarter horse, and a very dear friend of mine, I think I was 12 or so, had a purebred, and we would sneak out of her house at about 3 a.m. and ride double on her Arab gelding through the neighborhood. And he always got us home safely, and we got back through the window, and I'm alive to tell about it. So that's sort of how it started. I wanted a horse that pretty.
Wonderful. And you have the same story, George?
No, totally different. Totally different. Because I grew up in Poland, and Arabian horses belong to government. And my first experience with the Arabian horses was at the racetrack in Warsaw, where each trainer had to have some Arabian horses and some thoroughbred horses. And that spiked my interest in Arabian horses because they were so pretty. And I followed up in visiting Michał farm, and I remember first time seeing Nabor and Negative, so that tells you how old I am, and the rest of it is history.
And so when you bring up Poland and the state studs, were you actually an employee then? Or
no,
was it?
I was during my college. I did work during vacation for the farm, but I never was employed by a farm in Poland because shortly after I graduated, I came to the States. So, yeah.
Because I know for myself, my brother and I, we grew up, I had my first pony when I was 3 years old, and as I got bigger, the ponies, or the horses got bigger. And we showed saddlebreds, and then one summer my brother went to work at an Arabian horse farm, cleaning stalls, and he eventually got to work off buying an Arabian gelding. And here I am dating myself because this was in the day when we had saddlebreds and Morgans and Arabians at the same show, but in different rings. And my brother won everything. And he was a very good rider, but I was not. So I really, with my saddlebred, didn't win much. And the following year is when I said, I want one of those horses. And my brother showed from the morning, he would start out in showmanship, amateur halter, hunter. Those were the days also when Arabians could do 8 or 9 classes at a day. And that's when I said, that's the horse that I want. And it was pretty cool for me as well. And here I am now. And for you, Jeff?
I was 12 and 40 years ago, and I was taking saddle seat equitation lessons from a guy named Harold Adams in Oklahoma, where I'm from. And I was really allergic to horses, and I couldn't ride. My eyes would swell up, I would itch and all that. So one day, I don't remember how I got this Arabian Horse World magazine. We were on our way home from Oklahoma City, and I opened the magazine, and there was a stallion named Ibn Rayat. I can remember the ad, and he was bred by Ivan Rowe, who was a big breeder in Oklahoma at the time. And I said to my grandfather, who was driving, I want one of those. And my grandfather said, I'm sure you do. And so I knew at that moment that I wanted horses that looked like that.
And for you, Christine, obviously you said a half Arabian, and you grew up in Houston?
That was in Texas, and most of the friends that I had riding at the time were with quarter horses. So at some of the shows, I can remember walking by people who would look at my horse, and I would lean back and put my hand on his bottom to make his tail go down, because I kind of at that time wanted to have a quarter horse like all the other kids, you know. So I was like, oh, get your tail down, you know. But he was so pretty, and he won all his classes.
So, what made you then get into breeding Arabian horses?
I wanted, after I got married, I just wanted horses to ride on my farm. And I knew it had to be pretty. And to me, there's really only, that leaves one breed of horse. And I had a horse at one time that I was training in dressage. I wasn't training him, and people would say, well, you know, you should get a warm blood for dressage. Like, but you don't understand. The only reason I'm doing anything with horses is because I wanted to do it with Arabians. And if I didn't have Arabians, I wouldn't have horses. It's very simple. Because the thing to me is not the horse, it's the Arabian horse.
Right. And for you, George, you obviously never jumped ship to a different breed.
No. But you know, when I came to the States in 1981, I started working with Arabian horses in Arizona. It happened that it was right next to Lasma. They were our neighbors, so I had the privilege of,
it's a good place to
you
be.
know, seeing horses. And I remember it was after Basque died, but I remember Aladdin, Vision, Cognac. I mean, name it, they were all
Right.
there, and you know, I made my living out of it, and I, through years of being involved with the horses, I learned hopefully enough that I can give advice to people.
And write a book.
And write a book, and judge horses and
Do interviews.
and do interviews, and you know, and I'm versatile,
Right.
Just like the horse.
just like the horse, just like
Wonderful.
Arabian horse.
And so, obviously, Jeff, when you say 12 years, did you say 12 years ago?
12 years old.
Oh, you were 12 years old.
Yeah.
So, how long have you two known each other then?
George and I?
Yeah.
We know each other for, I think, 11 years.
Well, probably. I got a tape from George in the mail in 2002, 2001. 2001, and there were two mares on the tape, and it was Questura and Zagrobla.
Oh, God.
And they were outside at Mehow between the two barns, and there's a small door that the mares would go in when they were ready to go in. And Questura went in the door, and Zagrobla, they only wanted one mare in, the grooms or something, and Questura went in, and Zagrobla got in a fight with the groom, arguing with the groom. She wanted in. And the more she argued, the more blown up she became, and the more gorgeous she became, and the more her spirit just made me cry in my den watching this tape.
Right.
And so George and she became mine for a while, and so that was an amazing experience through him. Amazing experience.
I was in the middle of, I think if I count correctly, leasing of 7 national champions of U.S. from Poland. I think then from the horses I leased, or I was involved in leasing, 7 of them became U.S. national champions. I think I'm correct.
Well, it sounds good anyway.
Yeah, it sounds good.
I think you only had one reserve.
And those horses were Zagrobla.
Zagrobla, Questura, there was Emanor, that was, he wasn't U.S., he was Scottsdale champ. No, he was U.S. 1999.
I remember when
yeah.
he hit the scene in Scottsdale.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
quite amazing.
Yeah, quite amazing.
Michael had it.
Yeah, and then was Pianissima, there was Emandoria, and
Eldorado.
Eldorado, you know, so that's 7 right there, right?
Yeah.
And the reserve was Ganges. Yeah.
And for you, George, out of those 7 or any other horse, which one has touched you the most, or do you have the fondest memories of?
Probably Emanor, because he was such a gentleman. That was probably the best personality horse I've ever been around in my
Wow.
life.
Wow.
It was just amazing, this
Right.
horse. So, you know, like Pianissima was beautiful, of course, and Eldorado was beautiful broodmare type, but if somebody touched me personally, it was Emanor. And I mentioned those 3 names. I have all 3 shoes from the day they won their national championship in my house. They're plated gold, and they're on the wall in my kitchen.
That's really cool.
Oh, yeah.
And Christine, you've been breeding for how long?
Since about 94. And I just had a mare, sort of Babson breeding. But I just fell in love with the whole baby experience and then sort of moved up from there. But I was, when you talk about having tears in your eyes or chills, for me, the first year was for nationals when Europa El Jamal and Tuli El Jamal were champion and reserve. And I don't think I've ever felt that way since. I mean, I still love it, but they were so amazing.
That was really
so amazing.
Tuli's
quite spectacular.
I know she's at the Hennessy's now, and Europa's gone, which is so sad.
There was Christine. I was probably 13, and I went to Oklahoma City to the Nationals for the first time. And Fire Music, a beautiful chestnut boss daughter, was national champion mare. And the next year, when we went back to the National, she was U.S. national champion English pleasure horse.
Wow,
and that was an amazing thing to see.
Well, Emanuel did that too.
Yes.
Yes, he did do that, didn't he?
Yes. I think it was the last one.
Because now they don't really have to show.
Well, I think that's what makes everything so special about the Arabian horse is the stories and the history that we can all sit and talk about. You know, our favorite moments at U.S. Nationals, our favorite moments at Scottsdale, and to reminisce and all of that. So.
Well, the first time though I ever had that, I'm going to cry, I can't believe this, was way before that. Patrick Swayze, there was an event in Houston at the Polo Club, and it was a charity thing, and they were going to auction off some horses, which now I realize they were geldings, because who would auction their horses off? But anyway, so Patrick Swayze was there, and they came up on the stage, and they did the smoke, and it was unbelievable. Oh my God, they were so gorgeous.
Well, I have to say, for me, what really set me in motion to want to breed was my very first Scottsdale show. David Boggs was presenting Padrone, and Padrone was in the ring, and he was rearing, and I was just, all of those things I think a new horse or someone who wants to get in the horse business, we love. I mean, the rearing and all of that. And afterwards, David was presenting him outside of the Midwest stalls, and I pushed my way through the crowd, and I touched Padrone on his shoulder, and he just turned and looked at me like, who are you to touch me? And I just thought, my God.
You didn't wash his hand for days.
Exactly. I mean, he was just, from that moment on, I said, that is a horse that I definitely want in my breeding program. And of course, I had said I would like a breeding, and Scott's teasing me because at the time I had a gelding. Mm-hmm. Why are you buying a breeding when you have a gelding? And I think it was maybe 7 or 8 years later that I bred my mare, BB Flamingo Rose, to Padrone.
Oh, really?
And I loaded her in the trailer. I remember my brother and I, one morning, it probably took us, we had a little 2-horse straight load trailer, and BB did not want to go in this trailer, and it probably took us a good 20 minutes to get in this trailer, if not more. And we took her to Midwest. Very first breeding, she was bred, and then the following year we got a beautiful colt. And that, for me, was what sealed the deal with me and the Arabian horse.
Who made you cry, George?
Oh, I cry very easily, so, you know. But,
who made you cry first?
You know, it was really, really amazing for me because before I start working with Mike Nichols, helping him to lease horses.
So you helped him do the Questura thing.
Questura and Ganges. And so before I did that, I knew about him and, you know, his sales in Santa Ynez. You know, I remember they were selling this Bando's daughter named Expressia, was imported from Poland, and she came on stage, and before she came on the stage, the back of the stage, the wall opened up, and behind it, there was in California, in Santa Ynez, there was a hill with oak trees, and they put the lights on those trees and chased herd of gray mares. So it was like a screen in front of you, like a movie, except it was real.
Right.
That the real gray horses ran from one side to another side of the screen, and the wall closed, and then Expressia came, and she was, I think she sold for $230,000 or something.
Didn't Mary Jo buy her?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And those, I think, I mean, I love hearing those stories and all the stories of the Lasma days and all of that. And Kind of miss those.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool when, and they had all English horses coming on stage and Pointer Sisters singing, I'm so excited. And, those horses were trotting up and down the stage with smoke and stuff. And it was really great.
I'll tell you something funny about that. From the time I was like 23 to 27, I worked for Gene directly, remember? And he didn't know who the Pointer Sisters were. He was so hoarse. He was such a horseman, that whenever they were backstage ready to go on, and Fire Love was actually lot 1, and they were kind of petting her and everything, and Gene said, "Who is that with Fire Love?" Like, it was, he was worried that they were going to agitate her, and I said, "It's the entertainment. It's the Pointer Sisters." He was like, "Oh."
Yeah, it was really cool.
Wow.
Well, I think that's really one of the things, again, the Arabian horse, for me, as I said, as a kid, and growing up, never did I imagine that I would travel the world, as we all have, simply because of the Arabian horse and the changes that the horse has made in my life. So, well, I thank you all
so
for
much.
joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and one thing, I forgot to introduce Madeline.
Yeah, that's
And
She's staring right at the camera.
she's the superstar.
And Madeline will bite every one of my horses on the nose if given the chance.
what's funny is
Unfortunately.
Madeline looks at that red light and says, "Oh my God, the red light's on," and she froze.
She's beautiful. I like
She
to be around
is.
beauty. That's
Yeah.
why I have Arabian.
Yeah.
Aw.
Thank you.
Thanks.